Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Coffee with EMCSA. My name is Rob Walker. This morning, I'm joined by the previous speaker of EMCSA 2021, Mr. Gaylor Montmasson-Clair. Gaylor, welcome this morning. Thank you for taking some time to join us.
Good morning and pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Fantastic. So, Gaylor, obviously you spoke with us at EMCSA in February this year. You kind of gave us the hint that there was going to be some news coming out of government in terms of the government's processes and EVs, and you kind of hinted at what was coming. Obviously, that has all now happened. We've seen governments publish their green paper on e-mobility, and I also know you've been quite busy with working on what you've called the just transition for in Mpumalanga and the transition from a coal economy to renewable energy. So let's quickly cycle back to that green paper from government. For those viewers who haven't read the whole paper, maybe don't understand all the technical jargon, can you give us a quick overview? What was, I know a lot of people were really excited about the paper and what it contained. Can you give us, dare I say, the expert summary?
Sure, yeah, and I think the green paper is really an exciting key step towards promoting e-mobility and particularly electric vehicles into the country. For me, it was really the first official announcement that we're taking this seriously, and it's quite different from speeches. Now we've got a document, we've got a green paper that really says, these are our targets. We are serious about looking about the policy framework and the incentive framework that we need to implement jointly between government and the private sector in collaboration with social partners. What has transpired since the publication of the green paper? Of course, there was a consultation process, and there's been a tremendous amount of comments received by the department on the green paper. The department's busy internalizing all of that and publishing a revised version. But at the same time, we've been actively working on the incentive structure that's going to drive electric vehicles going forward. So that's work that we're busy doing at the moment, jointly between government and the private sector, and saying, what do we need to tweak, or what do we need to add to the framework to make sure that we incentivize both the OEMs and customers to buy, produce, sell electric vehicles. So that's work that's currently underway, and that's really going to then feed into the South African Automotive Master Plan, which is the overarching framework that controls, in some respect, or drives the automotive value chain in the country. So that's very exciting, because really we're seeing steps towards proper, adequate changing in the incentive framework to kickstart really this industry. So that's really exciting that we're working on that. And I think, the green paper, of course, kind of gives you the direction of travel. But now we need to go to the nitty-gritties, and that's what we're doing at the moment.
Fantastic. I mean, that's really exciting, because I know when we finished EMCSA, there was a couple of key points that were raised from both speakers and the audience. And I think two of those points were talking around, government taking a firm stance and actually, putting its, dare I say, planting the flag on the hill. And they've obviously done that now. They planted their flag. But it's exciting to hear you talk about incentives, because I know a lot of the guys were talking about we need to incentivize on both fronts, both the customer to actually buy electric and the OEMs to produce and manufacture. So that sounds like two of the big three things that we spoke about at EMCSA in terms of goals that we needed to achieve have actually already been achieved within 6 months of EMCSA, which is phenomenal. Is it a happy coincidence then that we know of, and I think you know of as well, 3, maybe 4 OEMs who are bringing out a significant number of EV vehicles in the next 6 months? By EMCSA next year, we will be looking at a exponentially expanded EV fleet in the country. Is that a happy coincidence, or is that a symptom of this government and private partnership, that the OEMs knew that this kind of this progress was coming? Because I think for many years people thought it was never going to come, and then all of a sudden in 6 months, everything's happened. And that was the third thing from EMCSA that people spoke about, was a larger variety of EVs in the market. So is this one of those moments where we can say this is a rare win for a public-private partnership that's actually heading in the right direction?
Look, I think it's a sign of times to come, definitely. And we can't ignore that this is part of a global trend. I mean, we can't put all our effort into one basket, but the automotive industry overall in South Africa, and this is not new, has been successful because it has been co-developed between government, the private sector, and the labor unions, and that's what has made it successful in the country. And that was also the case with the Green Paper. The Green Paper, even it has been an iteration between the various stakeholders. They know intimately those developments, as well as through the master plan. And the master plan has been co-developed again between all the stakeholders. So I think it's a bit of a chicken and egg, of course, situation. But certainly the OEMs are sending a signal that we want to move. We want to move. Of course, it's only going to move fast and at the speed that we want it if the right incentives are there. But at the same time, they are sending the signal. Government, we add some signals, but now I think with the Green Paper, we've got some very strong signals. And once we've got clarity on the incentives, then we're gonna get really the changes on the ground that are coming. So for me, it's not truly a coincidence. I think it's it's part of the organic nature of what's happening in the sector. Some OEMs are moving faster than others, of course. Some will be waiting for the incentives, but others, part of the global strategy, are moving faster. And I think that's really important. And also, being incremental in saying, okay, we're moving from one end, we're moving from another, and all together we're getting to where we want to go. And really through the incentive framework that we're working on at the moment, it's three ways. It's trying to incentivize the market. So of course, people need to have EVs to buy, and they need to buy them, and they need to be affordable, and that needs to transpire. Then there is the production. How do we get OEMs? I mean, we could always try to attract new ones, but let's say for now, at least the ones that are already producing in South Africa, to start adding to their production process electric vehicles. And then linked to that, the third element, how do we build the value chain? How do we build a supply chain? Because we very much realize that if we want to strengthen local content and local industry, that's going to happen through the value chain. And particularly through that is, of course, the battery industry, but all the other components, really, and that we need to develop. And that's going to happen quite organically as well. But we're looking at that quite strongly for passenger cars, for light commercial vehicles, but also for the bus market as well.
Fantastic. I mean, and I think it's really exciting, Gaylor. I mean, often, we do live in a country where there's a lot of criticism leveled at government, and I think in the EV sector there has been a lot of criticism. What you're saying, I think, mirrors a lot of what we heard last week from Mr. George Menny from Auto Trader, saying that these are a few things that has to happen in order to really push South African, EV change, and he was talking about that steep growth curve. It sounds like from your side, you're giving us insight again to say it's actually we are heading in the right direction. So that's really exciting. I know, because I follow you a lot. You also have been very busy on another project, which is the just transition for the Mpumalanga economy. Now, obviously not directly linked with EVs, but obviously it's linked with the move towards renewable energy. Can you give us a little bit of an overview? And I know, it's quite exciting. I mean, most Africans will know that the Mpumalanga economy is really founded on coal and dirty energy. Again, maybe a quick summary and some of the highlights of that just transition study case that you've been busy with.
Sure, and yeah, that's been really a big piece of my work. Looking at a just transition to a low carbon economy in South Africa, and as you pointed out, of course, a lot of that is in the Mpumalanga hotspot, so to speak. But really, it's economy-wide and society-wide, and it will come to other sectors. So for now, we're very much looking at the coal economy and trying to work out how can we move away from coal in a way that doesn't harm the communities, the workers, the businesses that rely on this. So to make sure that vulnerable stakeholders are not negatively impacted by the transition. Ideally, they should even be better off, but of course that's quite ambitious. And that's to really make sure that vulnerable stakeholders are not impacted by that transition. For now, it's focused on coal because that's the primary hotspot. That's where we're going to see a lot of the impacts in the very short term. But actually, it's economy-wide, and it's going to come to the transport sector and the value chain. Think about people employed in refineries. Think about people employed in petrol stations. What is going to happen to those workers and those communities in the long run as we move towards e-mobility? So that's really important that we also work on this and have a plan. Because the debate is not transition or no transition. The debate is the transition is going to happen. This is part of a global trend, of a national trend. Those transitions towards a low carbon economy are happening. The debate is, let's be proactive and then make it just, make it beneficial for all. Or if we are reactive and resist it, then it will not be just in the future because, facilities will close down and people will lose their job. So we need a plan for that. And the plan is about developing the new economy, of course, very proactively, and that's the case with renewable energy, that's the case with e-mobility, but also having a plan for the people who effectively, cannot move to those new industries, because they will retire or they don't have the skills or whatever those conditions may be. So in a nutshell, we're really trying to understand, and get plans on the ground, developing the framework and the implementation plans, say how can we implement those transitions in a proactive way. As the saying goes, we leave no one behind. We bring everyone on board, we take everyone along, and we really put the vulnerable stakeholders, those workers, those communities, the small businesses at the core of the transition rather than at the sideline. So that's really what we're trying to do. Coal will be the defining one for the very short term, but certainly this is going to cut across other sectors and coming to mobility pretty soon.
Fantastic, and I think it's really interesting, Gaylor, talking to someone like you. I mean, obviously you're involved, intimately in government. You are advising a lot of what we see happening. Cutting towards EMCSA next year, obviously we're very privileged that you're going to be speaking again at EMCSA. Can you share with us any kind of highlights, maybe things that we can look forward to you speaking? You dropped some big news on us this year with what we're going to hear from government. In the back of your mind, anything that you might be sharing with us next year that would be exciting?
Well, look, next year we should be in a position to discuss the incentive framework. That's the goal. At least the proposals. I'm not saying we would be able to announce the actual framework, and that wouldn't be my prerogative anyway. But certainly to to highlight the work that's been done towards that incentive framework, and where the key building blocks of that are going to be. That's what I'm hoping that we're in a position to discuss at EMCSA next year.
Fantastic. Well, Gaylor, I mean, I know you're a very busy man. You've got many things happening. I think that little tidbit would more than get most people registered, because I think the incentives is the last kind of piece of the puzzle. So thank you very much for taking time on this Wednesday morning to chat to us. And we look forward to seeing more of your work being published and more of that news coming out. And thank you again for being part of EMCSA and being part of us, being part of it next year again, and sharing those insights on both the green paper and the just transition with us this morning. I really appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thanks so much for the invitation, and looking forward to the event next year.
Fantastic, Gaylor. So that was Gaylor Montmasson-Clair sharing with us some insights on two of the most important issues around e-mobility in South Africa, government's transition with the green paper, as well as letting us know that by next year we might be able to discuss some of the proposals with the incentives that government's going to put forward to both manufacturers and the general public to speed up the transition towards EV. From myself, Rob, and the whole EMCSA team, thank you for joining us this morning, and we look forward to our next Coffee with EMCSA session. Please tune in with us then. Thank you very much. Goodbye.